You're going to Paris for the first time and there's so much to know. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 essential travel tips that I learned while visiting Paris for the very first time. That way you get the most out of your trip. Let's start with your flights. Unless you live in Western Europe, the time zone will change. For example, I live in the United States and I'm in the Central Time Zone, which means that Paris's time is 7 hours ahead of mine. This is important because it's something you need to keep in mind before booking your flights. For my family and I, the best thing to do was to get a flight that arrived in Paris as early in the day as possible. Why? Because once we arrived in Paris, the best chances we would have to take a nap upon arrival and still be able to enjoy the evening in Paris without being too tired. It also allowed us to go to bed at a decent time and made it easier for us to get used to the time change. I was traveling with my husband and my toddler. It was very important for me to get my toddler used to the time change as soon as possible. I remember our flight landed in Paris before noon, and by the time we got to our Airbnb, it was already 2 p.m. We took a nap and we were ready to head out by 6 p.m. and explore the city. We got back to our Airbnb by 9 p.m. and we were in bed by 10 p.m. We had no issues waking up at a decent time the next day to begin our first day in Paris. Now, depending on the airline that you use, you'll have different flight options, so just keep that in mind. To book your flights, you can simply go to Google and search for Google Flights. You'll need to put in your destination, the dates you plan on traveling, as well as how many passengers are traveling with you. It'll give you a long list of flights available with times and prices. This is a great tool to use to see what's available. But if there's a certain airline you rather use, you can search directly on their website as well. Now let's talk about your accommodations. Choosing a good place to stay could be a definitive factor on how much you enjoy your trip. For my family and I, it was best for us to stay at an Airbnb instead of a hotel. Since I was traveling with a toddler, I needed to be able to make food if needed, wash her clothes and her bottles, and have more space. Airbnbs tend to be bigger than normal hotel rooms, and you also have the option to share with friends and family traveling with you. However, if you stay at a hotel room, you have more amenities, which could be a good option if you're solo traveling or just traveling with your partner. I recommend just choosing something that makes more sense for your needs. Which brings me to the third tip, choosing the right location. Choosing an Airbnb or a hotel room near the places you plan on visiting can make your experience so much better because it can be walking distance. I will say that just walking around Paris can be a super fun activity in itself. It allows you to take it all in and really enjoy the views. For us, visiting the Eiffel Tower was a must, so we booked an Airbnb that was walking distance from the Eiffel Tower. Just keep in mind that prices on Airbnbs and hotels will vary based on location. We booked an Airbnb through the Airbnb app. All you gotta do is put in your destination, the days you'll need accommodations, and the number of guests. I personally like the Airbnb app because it gives you a list of Airbnbs and even hotels, and it shows you where they are located. Another good one is Vrbo, which also offers the same features to search for the perfect Airbnb or hotel for your trip. If you specifically want to stay at a hotel, there are many websites that you can use, like Expedia, Booking.com, Hotels.com, TripAdvisor, or just book with the hotel directly. Now, how to get around Paris. There are different transportation options when it comes to getting around Paris, but the easiest and most efficient one for most people is by using the metro system. A ticket costs about 2.5 euros per trip, and it's the fastest way to get around. You also have the option to get a Paris Visit Pass, which includes unlimited travel for multiple days depending on your visit. You can also get a monthly pass, a weekly pass, or a daily pass. For example, a Paris Visit Pass for one day costs about 29.9 euros. This is a good option if you plan on using it a lot. To purchase tickets for the metro, you can use an app like Bonjour. Here you'll be able to find all the ticket options that they offer with fares and routes. You can also purchase tickets from the airport to your hotel or Airbnb and back. Here you'll find a map with the routes, which can also help you decide where to book accommodations for your trip. I'm gonna link everything below so you can check it out. Another way to get around Paris is by using the taxi. It costs more than using the metro, but it can be a better option for you if you want to avoid crowds, stairs, and be more comfortable. The start base fare is around 4.48 euros and it continues to add 1.29 euros per kilometer. For example, a bulk price for a 5-kilometer trip would be around 10.93 euros. If you're traveling with children that can walk long distances, I recommend using the metro, but this is a decision you need to make based on your needs. There is a taxi in almost every corner in Europe, so it will be pretty easy for you to find one. You can also use apps like G7, Bolt, or Taxi.eu. And the final option to get around Paris is renting a vehicle, which is also the most expensive one. When I went to Paris, we rented a vehicle at the airport. Since we were traveling with a toddler, we thought it would be easier for us to just drive instead of trying to figure out the metro system. We wanted an easy and comfortable way to get around Paris with a toddler. But now that I'm familiar with the transportation system in Europe, what works best for us is using a taxi. Now let's talk about what are the best activities you must do when visiting Paris. To be very honest with you, I don't think you'll be able to do everything on your first visit, and you just have to be okay with it. If you stress about trying to do everything, you're not going to enjoy it, and it's just gonna be a stressful experience. And keep in mind, it's not just the city, but its local culture and also the food, which we'll get to later in this video. We had a list of things that we wanted to do while in Paris, which made it easier for us to come up with an itinerary. We wanted to visit the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, Notre Dame, and Disneyland. There are a lot more things to do in Paris than the ones that I just named, but these were the places that we really wanted to visit. Let's start with the Eiffel Tower. You can experience the Eiffel Tower from almost anywhere in central Paris. The first floor has 2 restaurants where you can make a reservation to have dinner. Just keep in mind that you do need a reservation and you need to reserve it with time. We had dinner at one of the restaurants at the Eiffel Tower and it was just a great experience for us. But there's nothing like being able to see the Eiffel Tower from a distance. The Louvre Museum was another great place to visit while in Paris. Just make sure to get your tickets in advance because they do sell out. This is one of Paris's top attractions, so expect it to be packed. The Louvre was huge and we were not able to see it all, which we were okay with. The Arc de Triomphe is another top attraction in Paris. Since we were traveling with a toddler, Disneyland was a must for us. This was also an all-day thing, so we didn't even bother to book something else on those days. We took 2 days out of our itinerary to go to both parks at Disneyland. There are also free activities that you can do while in Paris. One of them is the National Library. The building itself is just a beautiful place to look at. Another activity is the Petit Palais. I'm probably saying it wrong, so I'm just going to put it on the screen. And it is a free museum that you can experience. The building, it's beautiful, and it also has an outdoor area. There is also the Parc de Chaumont. I'm probably saying that wrong too, but I'm going to put it on the screen. And this is a park that you can go to and it's free. And like I mentioned previously in this video, walking around the city of Paris feels like an activity in itself. Stopping at a cafe and just enjoying the city views is something you must do while visiting Paris. Which takes me to my last tip, which is food and restaurants. Culture in Paris is different. Restaurants and cafes do not open as early as they do in America. Some of them open up between 8 to 8:30 in the morning, and some of them open up until 10 a.m. A lot of places close after lunch and reopen back at around 6 to 7 in the evening. That's something you need to keep in mind to schedule accordingly. Previously in this video, I mentioned that we stayed at an Airbnb that was close to the Eiffel Tower, so our logic was to just look for a restaurant near where we stayed at. But something that we learned is that restaurants near the Eiffel Tower, which is a big attraction, tend to be very pricey and the food is not all that great. Our first experience was a breakfast cafe. It was packed, so we assumed that the food would be really good, and it turns out that it was a tourist trap. The cool thing about that place is that you were able to see the Eiffel Tower while eating breakfast, and we spent over 100 euros on breakfast for 2. My recommendation would be to just look up local bakeries and try to find restaurants where the locals eat. I think that's what we should have done, and I believe that this would have made our experience much better. But overall, we had a great time in Paris. I hope the information in this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.